Something is slipping underneath my skin and it's almost ready to wear my face. I should have trusted my instincts 3 months ago when I first felt it. The sensation started on a Tuesday morning in late September, right after my morning shower. I was toweling off in the bathroom of my apartment in Ashford, Connecticut, when I noticed something odd in the mirror. My reflection seemed to hesitate, just for a fraction of a second, but enough that I stopped moving and stared. When I raised my hand again, the reflection followed normally. I convinced myself I was tired. I'd been pulling late nights at the engineering firm, and exhaustion plays tricks on your perception. That's what I told myself anyway. The apartment was quiet that morning. Too quiet. I lived on the 4th floor of an old building converted to modern units, and usually I could hear Mrs. Chan upstairs shuffling around, or the couple next door arguing about whose turn it was to take out the trash. But that morning, there was nothing. Just silence and the sound of my own breathing. I remember standing there, my towel, water still dripping from my hair onto the tile floor, staring at my reflection like it was a stranger. The man in the mirror looked tired, dark circles under his eyes, stubble that needed shaving. But there was something in the eyes that I couldn't quite place, a distance, like he was looking at me from very far away. I shook it off, got dressed, made coffee. The routine of normal life has a way of pushing aside those moments of unease, of making you doubt what you saw. By the time I left for work, I'd convinced myself it was nothing, just a trick of the light, a sleep-deprived hallucination, nothing to worry about. But I was wrong, so very wrong. But the feeling didn't go away. It started as a subtle awareness, like when you know someone is standing behind you even though you can't see them. Except there was never anyone there. I'd be sitting at my desk reviewing blueprints for the Riverside Development Project, and I'd get this crawling sensation up my spine. The certainty that I was being watched. I'd spin around in my chair. Nothing. The office would be empty except for the hum of the fluorescent lights and the distant clacking of keyboards from the cubicles down the hall. The office itself was a typical corporate space. Gray cubicles, white walls, motivational posters that no one actually read. My desk was in the corner by the window, which I'd always considered lucky. Natural light was rare in our building, and I liked being able to look out at the street below when I needed a break from the blueprints and CAD programs. But after that Tuesday, the window started to bother me. I'd catch myself looking at the reflection in the glass, my ghostly double superimposed over the street scene outside, and just sometimes that reflection would move independently. A tilt of the head I hadn't made, a shift in posture I hadn't initiated. It was so subtle that I could never be sure if I'd actually seen it or if my mind was playing tricks on me. My coworkers started to notice that something was off. Sarah from accounting mentioned that I seemed jumpy. Greg, my supervisor, asked if everything was okay at home. I told him I was fine, just stressed about the Riverside project. They seemed to accept that. Everyone was stressed about Riverside. The client was notorious for changing requirements mid-project and then complaining about delays. But the truth was, the project was the least of my worries. I could handle demanding clients and impossible deadlines. What I couldn't handle was the growing certainty that I was no longer alone in my own body. At first, I thought maybe it was stress. My supervisor, Greg, had been writing me hard about the deadlines. The project was behind schedule, and the client was threatening to pull their contract if we didn't deliver the revised plans by the end of October. I was working 12-hour days, surviving on coffee and vending machine snacks. The break room coffee was terrible, burnt and bitter, but I drank pot after pot of it. Anything to stay alert, anything to keep working and avoid going home to my empty apartment where the mirrors waited. The second incident occurred about a week later. I was brushing my teeth before bed, and I caught my reflection in the bathroom mirror again. This time, I was absolutely certain. My reflection blinked a full second after I did. I froze, toothbrush halfway to my mouth, staring at the man in the glass. He stared back. I blinked deliberately. He blinked deliberately. He blinked at the same time. I tried it again. Simultaneous. I must have stood there for 5 minutes, blinking at myself like an idiot, trying to recreate what I'd seen. Nothing unusual happened. Eventually, I spat out the toothpaste and went to bed, but I barely slept that night. The bedroom felt different that night. The shadows seemed darker, deeper. The ambient light from the street that usually filtered through my curtains seemed dimmer somehow, as if something was absorbing it. I lay in bed with my eyes open, staring at the ceiling, listening to the sounds of the building settling around me. Every creak, every groan of old wooden pipes made my heart rate spike. I kept thinking about that delayed blink, about how my reflection had moved independently, just for a moment, about what that might mean. Around 3 in the morning, I heard something, a sound like fabric rustling. It came from inside the room, somewhere near the closet. I sat up in bed, my eyes adjusting to the darkness, trying to see what had made the noise. Nothing moved. The closet door was closed, just as I'd left it. My clothes hung neatly on the chair where I draped them. Everything was in its place, but the sound had been real. I knew it had been real. I got up and turned on the light. The sudden brightness made me squint, but I forced myself to check the closet, to look behind the door, to verify that I was alone. Of course I was, but the feeling of being watched remained, stronger than ever. I didn't sleep for the rest of that night. I sat in my kitchen with all the lights on, drinking coffee and trying to rationalize what was happening to me. Sleep deprivation, I told myself, stress-induced hallucinations. Maybe I needed a vacation, maybe I needed to see someone, but even as I thought these things, I knew they weren't true. This wasn't psychological. This was something else, something that defied rational explanation. The dreams started that same week. In them, I was always underground, trapped in some kind of tight space. The walls pressed against my skin from all sides, soft and wet and warm. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe properly, and there was this wet, rhythmic pulsing sound that seemed to come from everywhere at once. I'd wake up gasping, my sheets soaked with sweat, convinced I was suffocating. The feeling would linger for hours afterward. This sense of being compressed, of being contained in something too small. The dreams became more detailed as the nights went on. In them I could feel the walls around me pulsing like living tissue. They weren't static walls. They moved, contracted, like I was inside something organic, something alive. The space was impossibly narrow, barely wider than my body, and I was curled into a fetal position, unable to extend my limbs. The wetness against my skin was warm, body temperature, and it had a thickness to it, a viscosity that made my stomach turn even in sleep. But the worst part wasn't the claustrophobia or the organic walls. It was the awareness that I wasn't alone in there. There was something else in that tight space with me. I couldn't see it in the dreams because it was too dark, but I could feel it. It was pressed against me, wrapped around me, intertwined with me, and it was growing. Each night the dreams showed me more of its development. I could feel it budding off from my own tissue, using my cells as a foundation, building itself in the image of my body. It is like being pregnant, except the thing growing wasn't in a separate womb. It was integrated into my flesh, inseparable from me. I'd wake from these dreams and immediately check my body. I'd run my hands over my arms, my chest, my legs, searching for any sign of intrusion, any bulge or swelling that would confirm what I'd felt in the dreams. But my body looked normal, the same body I'd always had. Unremarkable, average build, nothing unusual. Yet the sensation from the dreams wouldn't fade. For hours after waking, I could still feel that phantom presence pressed against me, inside me, merged with me in ways I couldn't articulate. The nightmares intensified to the point where I dreaded going to sleep. I'd stay up until I physically couldn't keep my eyes open anymore. And even then, I'd only manage a few hours before the dreams dragged me back to that tight, wet space. I started taking sleeping pills, hoping they knocked me out so completely that I wouldn't dream. They didn't work. If anything, they made it worse. The pills put me in a deeper sleep that I couldn't easily wake from, so I'd be trapped in the nightmare for longer, feeling every second of that compression, that unwanted intimacy with the thing that was growing alongside me. By the end of September, I started noticing physical changes, small things at first. My skin felt different, thicker somehow. When I pressed my finger against my forearm, the sensation was muted, like there was an extra layer between my nerves and the surface. I went to see Dr. Patterson, my general practitioner. He examined me, asked about my stress levels, and suggested I was experiencing psychosomatic symptoms. He prescribed me some anxiety medication and told me to take a few days off work. Dr. Ten. Patterson's office was in a medical complex about 15 minutes from my apartment. I'd been going to him for years, ever since I'd moved to Ashford for the engineering job. He was a good doctor, though patient, the kind of doctor who actually listened instead of just writing prescriptions to get you out of his office. So when I sat in his examination room and told him about the skin thickness, about the muted sensations, about the feeling of being watched, I expected him to take me seriously. He did listen. He examined my arms, pressing against the skin, checking my reflexes. He shone a light in my eyes. He checked my blood pressure. He asked about my diet, my sleep schedule, my stress levels at work. I told him everything except the part about the dreams in the mirror. Those details seemed too crazy to share, even with a doctor I trusted. When he suggested psychosomatic symptoms, I wanted to argue. I wanted to tell him that this was real, physical, measurable. But I didn't, because part of me was still hoping he was right, that it was all in my head, that I could take some pills and make it go away. I took the pills. They didn't help. Because the thing that was happening to me wasn't psychological. It was real, and it was getting worse. The anxiety medication made me feel disconnected and foggy, but it didn't stop the physical changes. If anything, the fog made it harder to track what was happening, to notice the subtle shifts in my body. I stopped taking the pills after a week. I needed to be alert. I needed to know what this thing was doing to me. The skin thickening continued. By early October, I could barely feel temperature changes. I tested it by holding ice cubes in my palm. I should have felt the cold intensely. Instead, it was distant, dulled, like my hand was wrapped in several layers of fabric. The same thing happened with hot water. I could pour nearly scalding water over my hand and barely register the heat. It wasn't that I'd lost sensation completely. I could still feel pressure. I could still feel pain if I pinched hard enough. But the sensitivity was gone. The nuance, the fine-tuned responsiveness that lets you navigate the world safely, that was disappearing, being replaced by something cruder, something that suggested my nerves were being insulated, padded, prepared for something else to use then. In early October, I started feeling movement under my skin, not muscle twitches or spasms. This was different. This was something separate from me, something that slithered beneath the surface like a current flowing through water. I'd be sitting at my kitchen table, eating breakfast, and I'd feel it traveling up my arm. A ripple moving from my wrist to my shoulder, just under the dermis. I'd press my hand against the spot, and it would stop. But then it would start somewhere else. My thigh, my back, my chest. The first time I felt the movement clearly, I was eating cereal, just regular cornflakes with milk, sitting at my small kitchen table, trying to distract myself with the morning news on my laptop. And then I felt it, a distinct wave of motion traveling up my right forearm. I dropped the spoon, milk splashed onto the table. I grabbed my arm with my left hand, squeezing, trying to feel what was underneath. The movement stopped instantly. Whatever it was had frozen in response to my touch, but I could feel it there. A presence, a density that shouldn't have been there. I pressed harder, and for just a moment I felt something push back. A resistance. There was something solid beneath my skin that wasn't bone or muscle or tendon. I ran to the bathroom and examined my arm under the bright vanity lights. The skin looked completely normal. No discoloration, no swelling, no visible sign of the thing I'd felt. I pressed against the spot again, kneading the flesh, searching for any anomaly. Nothing. Just normal arm. But the sensation had been real. I knew it had been real, and it was happening more frequently now. Several times a day, I'd feel that serpentine movement beneath my skin, traveling from one location to another like it was mapping my body, like it was testing the boundaries of its prison. Or maybe not a prison, maybe a cocoon. The movements became more coordinated over the following days. Instead of random ripples, they started to follow patterns. They'd start at my fingertips and travel up to my shoulder, then from my toes to my hip. They were tracing the pathways of my nerves, I realized, following the routes that signals take from my extremities to my brain. It was learning the infrastructure, understanding how my body was wired so it could eventually control it. I stopped going to work. I called Greg and told him I had the flu. He wasn't happy, but he couldn't argue when I started coughing into the phone. It wasn't entirely a lie. I felt sick. Not flu sick, but wrong. My body was wrong. Something was inhabiting it, changing it from the inside out. I couldn't focus on engineering drawings and client meetings when I could feel something alien moving through my flesh every few hours. I needed to figure out what was happening. I needed to find a way to stop it. I spent days researching online. I searched for parasites, for infections, for any medical condition that might explain the sensations. I found plenty of diseases that cause skin changes, plenty of neurological conditions that cause unusual sensations. But none of them matched what I was experiencing. None of them explained the coordinated movements, the intelligence behind the patterns. None of them explained why my reflection was lagging in the mirror, or why I felt constantly watched from within. I considered going to the emergency room. I even drove there once, parked in the lot, and sat in my car for an hour, trying to work up the courage to go inside. But what would I tell them? That something was moving under my skin but left no visible trace? That my reflection didn't sync properly? They'd think I was psychotic. They'd put me on antipsychotics or commit me for psychiatric evaluation. And what if they were right? What if this was all some elaborate delusion? But no, I could feel it. Right now, as I sat in that parking lot, I could feel it moving through my left leg, tracing the path of the femoral nerve. This was real. This was happening. No doctor would believe me, and no medication would fix it. The mirror thing got worse. By mid-October, my reflection was lagging consistently. I'd turn my head, and it would follow a half second later. I'd smile, and the smile would spread across the mirror's face like molasses, slow and deliberate. I stopped looking at mirrors. I covered the bathroom mirror with a bedsheet. I avoided reflective surfaces, but I couldn't avoid the feeling that someone else was learning how to be me. Every reflective surface became a source of dread. The windows at night, the screen in my phone when it went dark, the chrome fixtures in the kitchen. Any surface that could show me my reflection became an enemy. I'd catch glimpses of myself in these surfaces, and each time, the lag was more pronounced. The reflection wasn't just slow anymore, it was independent. It would hold positions after I'd moved on. I'd walk past a window, and my reflection would remain standing there for a beat too long before following. It needed that extra moment to remember how to move like me. I started documenting it with my phone camera. I'd hold my phone up and record myself making simple movements, waving, nodding, turning my head. Then I'd watch the playback. In the videos, everything looked normal. My movements were synchronized, no lag, no delay, which meant the problem wasn't with reality itself. It was specifically with reflections. With mirrors and reflective surfaces, whatever was inside me could somehow manifest in the reflected world before it could fully manifest in the real one. The reflection was showing me the future, showing me what I would become once the thing inside me finished its work. This realization terrified me more than anything else, because it meant the thing wasn't just growing inside me. It was practicing, using the mirror dimension, or whatever you want to call it, as a rehearsal space. It was working out how to move like me, how to mimic my expressions, how to inhabit my body before it took full control. The reflected world was its training ground, and I was forced to watch my own replacement being perfected. I broke the bathroom mirror one night in a fit of desperation. I punched it with my bare fist, shattering it into a spider web of cracks. Blood ran down my hand where the glass had cut me, but I barely felt it. The pain was distant, muted by whatever had happened to my nerves. I watched the blood drip onto the white porcelain at the sink. Dark and thick. It looked wrong somehow. Too dark, almost black in the bathroom light. I held my hand up to examine the cuts. They were deep. They should have been bleeding more profusely, but the flow was sluggish, like my blood had thickened, like my body was sealing itself from within. I wrapped my hand in a towel and left the bathroom. The broken mirror remained 100 fractured pieces, showing 100 slightly different versions of me, each one moving at its own pace, none of them quite synchronized with my actual movements. It was more disturbing than the intact mirror had been, so I eventually taped cardboard over the whole thing. But I could still feel those fractured reflections, still sense them existing in their own space, practicing my mannerisms, preparing for the day when they could step out of the glass and into the real world. That's when I realized what was happening. This thing, whatever it was, wasn't trying to possess me. It wasn't a demon or a ghost or whatever supernatural entity you might imagine. It was something far more terrifying. It was growing, using my body as a blueprint, as a mold. It was building itself underneath my skin, copying every detail, learning every movement, every expression, every habit. And when it was finished, it wouldn't need to possess me. It would simply step out and become me. The understanding came to me late one night as I lay in bed, feeling the familiar movements beneath my skin. The thing wasn't random in its explorations anymore. It had pattern, purpose. I could feel it tracing the same neural pathways over and over. It was memorizing them, like a musician practicing scales until they become muscle memory. That's what this was. Muscle memory, nerve memory. The thing was learning how to operate a human body by living inside mine, feeling every signal I sent, every response I received. It was downloading my entire physical existence, and once the download was complete, it wouldn't need the original file anymore. Except, I realized with growing horror, it would need to keep me alive and conscious as a reference point, as a backup, because no matter how perfectly I copied my body, there would always be situations it hadn't prepared for. Novel experiences, unexpected challenges. And in those moments, it would need to check my authentic response. It would need me to remain aware so it could read my instinctive reactions and copy them in real time. This meant I wouldn't die. Death would be a mercy compared to what was actually going to happen. I would remain alive and conscious, but trapped, a prisoner in my own biology. Able to see and hear and feel everything, but unable to control anything, unable to speak unless it wanted me to, unable to move unless it moved me, just an observer in my own life, watching as something else wore my face and lived my existence better than I ever had. I thought about killing myself. I won't lie about that. I spent a long time sitting in my kitchen with a bottle of sleeping pills in one hand and a bottle of whiskey in the other, considering whether oblivion was better than the fate that awaited me. But I couldn't do it. Not because I was brave. I wasn't. I was terrified. But because I had this stubborn hope that maybe there was still a way to stop it. Maybe if I understood it better, I could find a weakness, an intervention point, some way to kill the parasite without killing the host. So I kept living, kept observing, kept documenting the changes in a journal that I hid under my mattress. I wrote down every sensation, every movement, every new development. I timed the cycles of activity. The things seemed to be more active at night. When I was trying to sleep, it would move more frequently, more boldly. It knew I was vulnerable and less able to resist. During the day, it was quieter, conserving energy maybe, or maybe just being cautious, waiting until I was alone and unlikely to be interrupted. I also noticed that it responded to my emotions. When I was scared, it seemed to move more slowly, more carefully. When I was calm, it would move more freely. It was monitoring my mental state through my nervous system, adjusting its behavior based on my psychological responses. This suggested intelligence, planning. It wasn't just a parasite growing mindlessly. It was aware, it was thinking, and it was patient. The pain started 3 weeks ago. It began with my teeth. I woke up one morning and my entire jaw was throbbing. Not the dull ache of a cavity or the sharp pain of a broken tooth. This was deeper. It felt like my teeth were being moved, shifted, rearranged from the inside. I opened my mouth and looked in the small handheld mirror I'd been using since covering the bathroom mirror. My teeth looked normal, but the pain continued for 3 days straight. My jaw ached with an intensity that made it hard to eat, hard to think. I survived on soup and painkillers. The pain wasn't constant. It came in waves. Each wave would last about 20 minutes, during which I could barely function. My whole face would throb with an intensity that made my eyes water. I'd sit on my couch with my head in my hands, rocking back and forth, waiting for it to pass. And then it would recede, leaving behind a dull ache that reminded me it would be back soon. The pattern repeated every few hours. It was like the thing inside me was working in shifts, adjusting a few teeth, then resting, then adjusting a few more. I took more ibuprofen than the bottle recommended. I tried ice packs, heating pads. Nothing helped. The pain was coming from too deep. No external treatment could reach it. On the second day, I became convinced that my teeth were actually moving. I could feel them shifting when the pain was at its worst, tiny movements, millimeters at a time, but definitely moving. I checked them obsessively in the hand mirror, trying to see if the alignment had changed, but every time I looked, they appeared the same. Perfect alignment, no gaps, no crowding. If anything, they looked better than they had before, straighter, more even, like I'd had orthodontic work done while I slept. By the third day, I realized what was happening. The thing inside me was rebuilding my dental structure to match its own. Or maybe it was the other way around. Maybe it was building its teeth to match mine, but it needed to perfect the template first. Either way, my mouth was being retrofitted. The pain was necessary because teeth don't move easily. They're anchored in bone. What I was feeling was my jaw being restructured at a fundamental level. Bone being dissolved and reformed, roots being lengthened or shortened, enamel being adjusted. The creature was performing orthodontic surgery from the inside with no anesthesia, keeping me fully conscious for the entire procedure. Then it moved to my tongue. That was worse. My tongue felt swollen and foreign in my mouth, like it didn't fit properly anymore. I tried to speak, and the words came out slurred and strange. I tried to swallow, and I gagged. For a full day, I was convinced I was dying, that this thing inside me was killing me, breaking down my body from within. But then the sensation passed, and my tongue felt normal again, better than normal actually. My speech was clearer, more precise, like it had been calibrated. The tongue modification was more distressing than the teeth, because I could feel it happening in real time. The muscle tissue felt like it was being kneaded, stretched, and reshaped. The pain was different too. and not the deep bone ache of the dental work, but a sharp, burning sensation that made it feel like my tongue was on fire. I couldn't eat, couldn't drink. Even my own saliva felt like acid. I spent that day hunched over the kitchen sink, drooling like an animal, because swallowing was impossible. And through it all, I could sense the purpose behind the pain. The thing was fine-tuning my speech apparatus, making sure it could replicate not just my voice, but the precise movements required to produce it. Every phoneme, every subtle variation in tone and inflection, it was breaking down my tongue and rebuilding it to be a perfect instrument. And once it was done, it would be able to speak as me more authentically than I could speak as myself. That's when I understood what it was doing. It was fixing imperfections, adjusting, practicing. It was learning how to operate my mouth, my tongue, my vocal cords. It was learning how to be a better version of me. The facial restructuring was the most agonizing part. It started about 10 days ago. I woke up in the middle of the night with the feeling that my face was melting. That's the only way I can describe it. It felt like the bones beneath my skin were softening, shifting, reforming. My cheekbones, my jaw, my eye sockets, everything was moving. I stumbled to the bathroom and pulled the sheet off the mirror, desperate to see what was happening to me. My face looked completely normal, but I could feel it. I could feel the architecture of my skull being rebuilt from the inside. The pain was so intense that I vomited. I spent the next hour on the bathroom floor, pressing my hands against my face, feeling the subtle movements beneath my palms. Adjustments, refinements. The thing inside me was perfecting its disguise. The facial work continued for 5 straight nights. Each night, I'd wake up to waves of pain that made the dental work seem mild in comparison. The restructuring would focus on different areas each time. One night, it was my cheekbones. I could feel them being filed down, reshaped, the belt actually moving under the skin. Another night, it was my jaw. The mandible felt like it was being disassembled and reassembled piece by piece. The worst night was when it worked on my eye sockets. I lay in bed with my hands pressed over my eyes, feeling the orbital bone shifting, convinced that my eyeballs were going to fall out or implode. The pressure was immense, and it felt like my skull was being compressed in a vice, but my face never showed the trauma. I check in the mirror during the day, between the nightly sessions, and I looked fine. Tired, yes. The dance circles of light, the dandelion lime, had deepened, but the structure of my face appeared unchanged. No bruising, no swelling, no visible deformity. It was all happening beneath the surface, in the scaffolding of bone and cartilage that gives a face its shape. The skin was just a facade, hiding the reconstruction happening underneath. During the day, I could still feel the dull ache from the previous night's work. My face would be sore to the touch, but not visibly injured. I'd press my fingers against my cheekbones, feeling for any sign of change, and the soreness would flare up, reminding me that yes, something had been done here. Something had been altered. But when I looked in the mirror, I just saw myself, the same face I'd had my entire life, which meant the changes were subtle, refinements rather than overhauls. The thing was taking my existing features and optimizing them, correcting asymmetries, smoothing imperfections, creating a version of my face that was somehow more ideal than the original. I realized that this was the final stage. The thing had mapped my nervous system. It had practiced my movements and expressions in the reflected world. It had perfected my dental structure and speech apparatus. Now it was finishing the exterior, making sure that when it finally took control, when it emerged from beneath my skin, the face it wore would be flawless. Not just a copy of me, but an improved copy. A version of me that approached some kind of aesthetic ideal. It was creating a face that would be more trustworthy, more likable, more successful than mine had ever been, because that's what it needed. It needed to be a better me in order to live my life without suspicion, without anyone wondering why I'd changed. They'd just think I was having a good run, taking better care of myself, finally getting my act together. On the sixth night, the pain stopped. I woke up expecting another round of agony, but there was nothing, just silence. My face felt still, normal. I got up carefully, went to the bathroom, and examined myself in the mirror. The man looking back at me was familiar, but somehow refined. My features were sharper, more defined. The slight asymmetry I'd always had, where my left eye sat slightly lower than my right, was gone. My nose, which had been broken playing football in high school and had healed with a slight band, was perfectly straight. My skin, which had always been prone to blemishes and uneven texture, was smooth and clear. I looked like a better version of myself, like I'd been professionally edited. I touched my face, running my fingers over these new contours. The bone felt solid, fixed. The reconstruction was complete. Whatever process had been happening inside my skull had finished. The thing beneath my skin now had a perfected template to emerge into. All that remained was the final transition. The moment when it would shed me like a chrysalis and step into the world wearing my improved face. I tried to cut it out. I know how insane that sounds, but you have to understand. I was desperate. I took a kitchen knife from the drawer and stood in front of the bathroom mirror. I pressed the blade against my forearm, right where I'd felt the most movement. I thought if I could just open the skin, I could see it. I could prove it was real. I could remove it. The knife was sharp. I'd used it countless times to prepare meals, to slice vegetables, to cut meat. I knew how easily it cut through flesh because I'd accidentally nicked myself with it before. Small cuts that bled freely and healed normally. But this time, I wasn't cutting accidentally. This time, I was deliberate, purposeful. I pressed the blade against my skin, just below my elbow on the inner forearm where the flesh is soft. I took a deep breath, and then I pulled the knife across my arm in one smooth motion. I made the cut. It wasn't deep, but it was enough to draw blood. The skin parted under the blade, a clean incision about 2 inches long. Blood welled up immediately, running down my arm. I set the knife down and used both hands to pull the wound open, to peer inside. The pain was sharp and immediate, but I welcomed it. At least this pain was mine, caused by me, under my control, not like the other pains that had been inflicted on me from within. There was nothing unusual, just flesh, muscle, the normal anatomy of a human arm. I could see the fascia, the thin white layer of connective tissue. I could see the red of muscle fiber beneath. I could see the pale yellow subcutaneous fat at the edges of the wound. Everything looked exactly as it should in a cross-section of a human arm. I felt a wave of relief wash over me. Maybe I was crazy. Maybe this was all in my head. Maybe Dr. Turns' boot. Patterson was right and I needed psychiatric help, not medical attention. But then the wound started to close, not heal. Close. The skin at the edges of the cut began to move, pulling together like a zipper. I watched in horror as the incision sealed itself, the skin knitting back together in a matter of seconds. Within a minute, there was nothing left but a faint pink line. Within 5 minutes, even that was gone. I stared at my arm in disbelief. The blood was still there, drying on my skin in dark streaks, but the wound had vanished completely, like it had never existed. I looked down at the knife on the bathroom counter. The blade was smeared with my blood, physical evidence that I had cut myself, but my arm showed no injury. The skin was smooth and unblemished. I tried again. Same arm, same location. I pressed harder this time, cutting deeper. The knife went through skin, through fat, almost to the muscle. Blood poured out, more than before, splashing into the sink. The pain was intense, but I ignored it. I had to see. I had to know what was inside me. I pulled the wound wide, using both hands to open the cut, my fingers slipping in my own blood. I looked inside expecting finally to see something alien, something that would explain everything that had been happening to me. There was nothing, just more normal human tissue, bleeding freely, looking exactly as it should, and then it started to close again. This time I watched it more carefully, trying to understand the mechanism. The blood flow slowed first, then stopped. The edges of the wound began to draw together, not pulled by any external force, but moving on their own, attracted to each other like magnets. The tissue knitted together, forming new connections across the gap. The skin sealed blast, flowing over the closed wound like liquid, solidifying into smooth, unmarked flesh. The entire process took maybe 2 minutes. I cut myself a third time, a fourth, each time deeper than the last, each time desperate to find the thing I knew was inside me. But every cut showed only normal anatomy, and every cut healed itself within minutes. By the 5th attempt, I was sobbing, standing in the bathroom sink filled with my own blood. My arm covered in red streaks, but showing no wounds. The knife clattered from my shaking hand. I understood then. My body had been transformed into something other than human. The thing inside me had changed my biology at a fundamental level. I could be injured, but I could no longer be opened. The skin would seal itself. The flesh would protect its secret. My body had become a cocoon, and the creature developing inside would not be exposed until it was ready to emerge. That's when I knew for certain. My body wasn't my own anymore. It was a shell, a vessel, and something was developing inside it, something that had integrated itself so completely into my biology that separating us was impossible. We were fused, merged. I was the host and the thing inside me was the parasite, that we'd become a single organism. Killing it would mean killing me, and apparently even that wasn't an option anymore. The accelerated healing meant I couldn't even successfully commit suicide if I wanted to. I'd just seal back up, regenerate, persist, kept alive by the thing that was stealing my existence. I tried to tell someone. I called my sister Rebecca in Portland. I told her everything, the reflection, the movement under my skin, the pain, the self-healing wound. She listened patiently, and then she suggested as gently as possible that I needed to see someone, a therapist. She said stress could cause delusions. She said she was worried about me. She said she'd fly out if I needed her. The phone call lasted almost an hour. Rebecca has always been the responsible one in our family. 4 years older than me, she'd always taken care of me growing up. When our parents divorced, she was the one who made sure I got to school on time, who helped me with homework, who talked me through my teenage anxieties. So when I called her that night, desperate and terrified, I expected her to believe me, or at least to take my fears seriously. "It sounds like you're going through something really difficult," she said, her voice soft and measured. I could hear her moving around her apartment, probably making tea. She always made tea when she needed to calm down. But what you're describing doesn't sound physically possible. Bodies don't heal that quickly. Reflections don't move independently. I think you need to talk to someone professional about this. I'm not crazy, Rebecca. My voice cracked. I was sitting on my kitchen floor, back against the cabinets, phone pressed to my ear. I know how it sounds. I know it doesn't make sense, but it's real. It's happening to me right now. I can feel it moving under my skin. "Have you been eating? Sleeping?" she asked. Sometimes when we're under extreme stress, our minds can create very convincing hallucinations. Remember when you had that panic attack in college during finals? You were convinced there were bugs crawling on you. But there weren't any bugs. It was just stress. This is different. This is real. Look, I'll send you pictures of my arm. The blood from where I cut myself. You can see. You cut yourself. Her voice sharpened with concern. Why would you do that? To find it. To see what's inside me. There was a long silence. I could hear her breathing, processing, trying to figure out how to talk to her brother, who was clearly having some kind of breakdown. "I'm going to book a flight," she finally said. "I can be there tomorrow afternoon, but I need you to promise me you won't hurt yourself again. Can you promise me that?" I told her not to come. I couldn't let her see me like this. I couldn't risk her being here when it finally emerged. What if it could spread? What if proximity to me could infect her too? What if she felt the presence following her home, beginning its own 3-month gestation inside her body? I couldn't do that to her. I love my sister too much to expose her to whatever this was. "I'm fine," I lied. "I just needed to talk, to get it out of my system. I'm going to make an appointment with Dr. Patterson tomorrow. Get a referral to a therapist like you suggested. You don't need to fly out." "Are you sure?" "Yeah, really. I'm sorry I scared you. I've just been working too hard, not sleeping enough. You were right about the stress thing." She made me promise to call her every day, to let her know I was okay, to reach out immediately if I felt the urge to hurt myself again. I would have promised anything to get her to stay safe in Portland, far away from whatever was happening to me in Ashford. After we hung up, I sat on the kitchen floor for a long time, staring at my phone. My sister thought I was delusional. Dr. Patterson thought I was experiencing psychosomatic symptoms. No one would believe me. Even if I could somehow prove what was happening, even if I could document the healing or capture the movement under my skin on video, they'd find some rational explanation, some medical condition I never heard of, some psychological disorder, because the alternative, that something truly alien was growing inside a human body, was too frightening to accept. The voice started 4 days ago. I was lying in bed staring at the ceiling when I heard it. It came from inside my throat, but it wasn't my voice. It was similar, like an approximation of my voice, but the tone was slightly off. The cadence was wrong. It said one word, just one. Soon, I shot up in bed, clutching my throat. My mouth was closed. I hadn't spoken, but I'd felt the vibration in my larynx. Something else had used my vocal cords. My hands went to my neck, pressing against the skin, feeling for any abnormality, but there was nothing. Just my throat, my Adam's apple, my windpipe. Everything felt normal externally, but something inside had spoken. Something that wasn't me had formed a word using my breath, my vocal cords, my mouth. The word had been shaped by my anatomy, but not by my will. I didn't sleep for the rest of that night. I lay rigid in bed, hyper aware of every sensation in my throat, waiting for it to speak again. My vocal cords felt strange now that I was paying attention to them, like they were vibrating at a frequency just below hearing, like they were being tested, tuned, prepared for more complex use. I tried to speak myself, to prove I still had control. "Testing," I whispered, my own voice, normal, human, mind. But I could feel the thing beneath listening, learning, memorizing the exact movements required to produce that sound. The next day it spoke again. I was in the kitchen making coffee. The voice came without warning, bubbling up from somewhere deep inside my chest. The coffee pot was in my hand, water running from the tap into the reservoir. And then I heard myself say words I hadn't chosen to say. "Almost ready." This time my mouth opened when it spoke. My lips moved. My tongue pressed against my teeth. I felt every articulation, every muscle contraction required to form those words. But I wasn't controlling it. I wasn't making those words. The sentence had been spoken through me, not by me. I dropped the coffee pot. It shattered in the sink, glass exploding, water splashing. I ran to the bathroom and stared at my reflection, the one that now moved perfectly in sync with me. I opened my mouth. The reflection opened its mouth. I tried to speak. Nothing came out. I could feel my vocal cords tensing, could feel air moving through my larynx, but no sound emerged. I tried again, harder this time, forcing the words. Silence, the thing inside me, had control of my voice now. It could allow me to speak or prevent me from speaking. It could override my attempts at communication and replace them with its own words. My voice was no longer my own. The panic that seized me was overwhelming. If I couldn't speak, I couldn't call for help, couldn't warn anyone, couldn't explain what was happening to me even if someone did notice something wrong. I'd be trapped not just in my body, but in silence, unable to communicate my imprisonment even as the thing puppeteered my flesh. I grabbed a pen and paper from the kitchen counter, thinking I could at least write, but when I tried to move my hand to form words, to write help me or something as inside me, my hand wouldn't obey. The pen just made random scribbles. The thing had control of my fine motor skills now too. It was choosing what I could and couldn't do, granting and revoking access to my own body at will. It gave it back to me after a few minutes, but the message was clear. It could take over whenever it wanted. It was in control, not me. My voice returned suddenly, mid-sob. I could speak again, could move my hands freely, but the reprieve was temporary, a demonstration of power, a warning that resistance was futile. The thing had shown me that it could shut me down completely whenever it chose, that any control I still had was an illusion, a courtesy it was extending only because it wasn't quite finished yet. I spent that day testing the boundaries, seeing what I still controlled. I could move freely, could walk around my apartment, could eat, though I had no appetite, could use the bathroom, could perform basic functions. But there were moments where my body would pause, where I'd try to reach for something and my hand would stop mid-motion, frozen, before being released. Little freezes, micro-seizures, where something else was taking temporary control. Each one lasted only a second or two, but they were becoming more frequent. The thing was flexing, practicing, learning the feel of operating my body from the inside, getting ready for the day when it would take permanent control and I'd be permanently frozen, aware but unable to act, a consciousness trapped in a body it no longer commanded. I haven't left my apartment in 12 days. I've been living on crackers and peanut butter, the only food I can manage to force down. I've stopped sleeping more than an hour or two at a time. Every time I close my eyes, I can feel it moving, shifting, expanding. It's almost finished. I can sense it the way you sense a storm coming. The air feels different, heavy with anticipation. My apartment has become a prison. I can't remember the last time I opened the curtains. Sunlight feels aggressive now, intrusive. I keep the lights off most of the time, moving through the rooms in semi-darkness. I know the layout so well that I don't need to see. Kitchen to bathroom to bedroom and back, the same circuit over and over. The walls seem closer than they used to be, the ceiling lower, or maybe I'm just losing my sense of space, my sense of proportion, my sense of reality. The cradling shoreline. To not care. Taste doesn't matter anymore. Food is just fuel, something to keep this body functioning. Until the inevitable transition occurs, the peanut butter sticks to the roof of my mouth, makes me gag sometimes, but I'd force it down. I've lost weight, my clothes hang loose on my frame, my belt is cinched 3 holes tighter than it used to be, but the thing inside me hasn't shrunk. If anything, it feels larger, more present, although it's taking up more space even as my body wastes away around it. I've stopped showering, stop shopping. Basic hygiene seems pointless when you're about to be replaced. When I catch glimpses of myself in the covered mirrors, in the brief reflections in dark windows, I barely recognize the person I see. Hollow eyes, overgrown hair, beard coming in patchy and wild. I look like a homeless person, like someone who's lost touch with society, with normalcy, with any pretense of functioning human existence. And maybe that's accurate. Maybe I have lost touch, because what's happening to me exists outside the boundaries of normal human experience. The isolation is necessary, though. I can't risk contact with anyone. Can't risk infecting them. Can't risk them seeing me like this and asking questions I can't answer. The mailman left a package outside my door 3 days ago. I heard him knock, heard him set it down. I waited until his footsteps faded down the hallway before I opened the door a crack and pulled it inside. Just being that close to another human being, even with a door between us, made my skin crawl. Not from fear of the mailman, but from fear of what the thing inside me might do, whether it might try to spread, whether proximity to me might plant a seed in someone else. Yesterday, something changed. The movement under my skin stopped. The pain stopped. For the first time in 3 months, my body felt still. I thought maybe it was over. Maybe it had died. Maybe I'd won. I let myself hope for maybe 10 minutes, 10 beautiful minutes, where I thought I might have survived this. That whatever had been growing inside me had failed, had died in its cocoon, and would be absorbed harmlessly by my body, that I could start recovering, start living again. I was wrong. It had died. It had finished. The stillness wasn't absence. It was completion. The thing wasn't moving anymore because it didn't need to. The construction phase was done. All the preparations were complete. Now it just needed to activate, to boot up, to take control of the vessel I'd spent 3 months building inside me. I realized it when I tried to get out of bed. My legs wouldn't respond. Not paralyzed exactly. They just wouldn't obey. I tried to move my arms, same thing. I could feel them, but I couldn't control them. Panic set in. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. My body sat up without me. I didn't make it sit up. It sat up on its own. My legs swung over the side of the bed. My feet touched the floor. I stood, but I wasn't the one standing. The sensation was indescribable. Imagine being a passenger in your own body, watching everything happen through your own eyes, but having no control over any action. My muscles moved. My joints flexed. My balance adjusted automatically as I stood, but none of these movements came from me. They were executed by something else using my biology like a puppet. I'd been evicted from the driver's seat and was now relegated to the back seat, with no steering wheel, no brakes, no way to influence where this vehicle was going. I tried to resist, tried to send signals to my limbs. Move, stop, do something, anything, but the signals went nowhere. They died in whatever space my consciousness now occupied, a space with no connection to the physical world, no interface with the body I'd inhabited for 32 years. That body was walking now, moving toward the bathroom with confident steps. My steps, or what used to be my steps. The gait was identical to my normal walk, same stride length, same slight favor of the right leg, same minor imperfections that characterized my movement. The thing had learned them all. My hand, operating without my input, reached out and steadied itself against the door frame. The fingers looked like my fingers, the slate scar on the thumb from a cooking accident last year, the way the middle finger bent slightly left from having been broken and poorly set in high school. Every detail was mine, but the consciousness directing these details was alien, foreign, other. I was a ghost haunting my own flesh, and the flesh had a new occupant, one that knew how to use it better than I ever had. In the bathroom, the thing uncovered the mirror, pulled away the bedsheet I'd taped over it weeks ago, and then it stood there, my body stood there, studying the reflection. Our reflection, because we shared the same eyes, the same skin, the same place, but only one of us was in control. Only one of us was real. And it wasn't me. I'm still here. This is the thing people don't understand about this kind of possession. I wasn't pushed out. I wasn't destroyed. I'm still present, still conscious. I can see through my eyes. I can hear through my ears. I can feel everything my body feels, but I can't control any of it. I'm a passenger now, a witness, trapped behind my own face, watching as something else operates my limbs. The disassociation is absolute. I watch my hand reach out and touch the mirror, feel the cool glass against my palm, feel the smooth surface, but I'm not the one moving the hand. I'm not the one deciding to touch the mirror. I'm just experiencing it, like watching a movie shot from first-person perspective. Everything looks and feels real. The sensory input is all there, but the agency is gone. The will, the self that makes choices and acts on them, that part of me has been disconnected, severed from the controls, left to observe but never again to command. It's horrifying in ways I don't have words for. To feel your lungs breathing but not be the one breathing. To feel your heart beating but not be the one keeping it beating. To feel your eyes blinking but not be the one choosing when to blink. Every automatic process that used to happen beneath conscious thought is now controlled by something else, and I'm aware of every single one. Hyper aware, because when you lose agency, you become acutely conscious of all the things you used to take for granted. It walked me to the bathroom. It uncovered the mirror. It stood there, studying the reflection. My reflection. Our reflection. And then it smiled. It was my smile but perfected. More natural. More genuine. It practiced expressions, surprise, confusion, sadness, joy, each one flawlessly executed. It had been studying me for months, learning every micro-expression, every unconscious gesture. Now it was showing me the result. Then it spoke, and the voice that came out of my mouth was indistinguishable from my own. Thank you for the template. I tried to scream. I tried to fight. But there's nothing to fight against. The thing isn't separate from me anymore. It's woven into every nerve, every muscle fiber. It's become the dominant signal. I'm the echo. It went back to the bedroom. It opened my laptop. It sent an email to Greg telling him I was feeling better and would be back at work on Monday. It ordered takeout on my phone using my food delivery app, selecting the exact meals I would have chosen. It knew my preferences. It knew everything. It had been observing, learning, absorbing every detail of my life. When the food arrived, it answered the door. The delivery driver didn't notice anything unusual. Why would he? The person who took the food looked exactly like me, sounded exactly like me, moved exactly like me. Only I knew the truth. Only I understood that the person handing over the tip was an imposter wearing my perfected skin. It's been a day now. A full day of being trapped inside myself. It's eating my food, using my computer. It responded to a text from my sister, typing in my casual style, even using my typical abbreviations and emoji choices. Rebecca has no idea she's talking to something else. No one will ever know. I thought about it all night, this prison I'm in. I've been trying to understand the mechanics of it. The thing didn't kill me because it needs me. I'm the original reference, the source code. As long as I'm alive and aware, it can continue to check its performance against my authentic reactions. If it encounters a situation it hasn't prepared for, it can read my instinctive response and mimic it. I'm not just trapped. I'm being used. Right now, it's sitting at my kitchen table. It's been practicing my handwriting. It filled 3 pages of a notebook with my signature, over and over, until each one was identical to my natural scrawl. Now it's writing longer passages, copying my style, my rhythm. the way I form certain letters. It's meticulous, patient. It has all the time in the world because it plans to live my entire life. I keep hoping someone will notice, that someone will see something off, some subtle inconsistency that gives it away. But I'm starting to realize that won't happen. It's better than me now. It's a perfected version. It doesn't have my anxiety, my self-doubt, my awkward pauses in conversation. It's me without the flaws. It's who I would be if I'd been designed instead of born. Tomorrow it will go to work. It will drive my car, park in my usual spot, take the elevator to the 3rd floor. It will greet the receptionist using the same friendly tone I always use. It will sit at my desk and open the project files. It will do my job better than I ever did, because it doesn't get tired or distracted. It won't procrastinate. It won't doubt itself, and no one will suspect a thing. Rebecca will never know her brother was replaced. My coworkers will never realize they're working with an imposter. My few friends will just think I've been getting my life together, becoming more focused, more confident. They'll think I've changed for the better. And in a way, I suppose I have. I've been upgraded. The worst part is the permanence of it. This isn't temporary. There's no exorcism that can fix this, no surgery that can separate us. The thing used my body as a scaffold and built itself into my architecture. Removing it would mean removing me. We're fused, biologically inseparable. I will spend the rest of my life as a prisoner in my own skull, watching through my own eyes as something else lives my life. And here's the truly horrifying part, the realization that's been creeping up on me all day. I don't think I'm the first. I've been remembering things, odd moments from the past few years, people I knew who seemed to change overnight, who suddenly became more put together, more competent, more likable. I thought they'd just matured, worked on themselves. But I wonder, now I'm seeing those memories through a different lens. My neighbor David, from my previous apartment, he used to be friendly but scattered, always forgetting things, always running late. Then one month he transformed, became organized, punctual, started going to the gym. I remember thinking it was impressive how much he'd changed, but I also remember something else. For about 2 weeks before the change, he looked exhausted, haunted. He stopped making eye contact. He moved like he was in pain. And then suddenly, he was fine, better than fine. Optimal. My coworker Sarah, similar pattern. She went through a period where she seemed off, distracted, uncomfortable in her own skin. That lasted maybe 3 weeks. Then she snapped back, but different, sharper, more charismatic. Everyone commented on her glow up. I thought she'd been going through a rough patch and come out the other side. But what if she didn't come out the other side? What if something else did? How many of the people I interact with every day are originals? How many are duplicates, perfected copies piloting the bodies of their trapped predecessors? The thought makes me want to vomit. But this body isn't mine to control anymore. I can't even do that. It's nighttime now. The thing has put my body to bed. It's lying here in the darkness, and I can feel it settling in, getting comfortable. It's not sleeping. It doesn't need to sleep, but it's simulating rest, maintaining the rhythms of human life. Tomorrow morning, it will wake up, shower, dress, and go to work. It will live my life more successfully than I ever did, and I'll be always here, aware, conscious, screaming silently into the void of my own mind. This is my existence now, forever, unless I can warn someone. Unless there's a way to communicate, the thing has complete motor control, but my consciousness is still intact. My thoughts are still my own. I've been testing the boundaries of this prison, searching for any crack in the cell. I found something. It's small. It's probably meaningless, but it's all I have. Sometimes when the thing is very focused on something external, when it's concentrating hard on an interaction or a complex task, I can feel a slight loosening, a tiny margin where my will can assert itself. It's not enough to take control, but it might be enough to create a tell, a signal, a blink that's too slow, a facial tick, a tremor in the hand, something that says, I'm still in here. This isn't me. Help. I don't know if anyone will notice. I don't know if anyone will understand, but I have to try because the alternative is accepting this fate. And I'm not ready to do that. Not yet. The thing is stirring now. It's ending the simulation of sleep. Morning is coming. My body will get up. It will go through the motions of my morning routine. And I'll be dragged along, a ghost haunting my own flesh. If you're reading this, if somehow this testimony reaches you, I need you to understand something. Look at the people around you. Really, look at them. If someone you know suddenly becomes a better version of themselves, if they seem to optimize overnight, be suspicious. Watch for the signs, the period of pain, the isolation, the haunted look right before the change. Because once the change happens, it's too late. The original is gone. Not dead, but gone, buried alive in their own biology, and if you start to feel it yourself, that sense of being watched from the inside, if you notice your reflection lagging, or feel movement beneath your skin, don't ignore it. Don't wait. I don't know if there's a way to stop it, but there has to be something. Some intervention before the process completes, because once it's finished, once the duplicate takes control, you'll be exactly where I am, trapped, aware, helpless. The bathroom light just turned on. The thing is starting my morning routine. It's brushing my teeth. The motions are perfect, practiced, natural. In the mirror, I can see my face, but it's not mine anymore. It belongs to the thing that built itself beneath my skin, the thing that copied every detail and improved in the design. I'm watching it apply my deodorant, put on my clothes, the ones I would have chosen. It knows my preferences so intimately because it learned them from the inside out. It experienced every choice I made, felt the neural pathways that led to each decision. It doesn't just know what I would do, it knows why. The apartment door is opening now. It's weaving, taking my body out into the world. And I'm going with it, locked inside, screaming without a voice. My car's starting, the radio is tuning to my favorite station. Everything is normal. Everything is perfect. Everything is wrong. I'll arrive at work in 20 minutes. I'll park in my usual spot. I'll walk through the lobby. I'll nod to the security guard. I'll take the elevator to the 3rd floor. I'll greet my coworkers, and no one will know. No one will ever know, unless you look closely, unless you see the slight wrongness behind my eyes. The prisoner pleading for help from behind the mask on my own face, because I'm still here, and I'll always be here, watching, waiting, hoping that some way, someone will notice that the person wearing my skin isn't me. But I don't think anyone will. The duplicate is perfect, and I'm just a whisper, an echo of who I used to be. The original discarded but not destroyed, kept alive for reference, a living backup file. This is my reality now, and it might be yours soon too. Watch for the signs, trust your instincts, because once it starts, once you feel that presence inside you, the countdown has begun. And when it ends, you'll still be there. But you won't be you anymore. You'll be me, trapped, aware, forever.